So I was saying, episode 11. 11 consistent weeks of podcasts.
You're excited about this,
I
obviously.
am. Well, I'm a big advocate of doing things consistently.
Well, we did 200 straight weeks of KT Quick Tips.
Yeah.
And every realtor under the sun was trying to copy what we were doing.
Well, it's funny because you see, I remember, I don't know when it was, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, after we started doing that, there was one other local realtor that posted, I think, actually there's a couple realtors that did it, posted maybe 2 to 3 videos.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to think, man, people are copying us now. But then they stop.
Yeah, and I know who you're referring to, and some competitors, if you call them that, but specifically said in the first couple of episodes, oh, we're going to be doing this on a weekly basis. They did it for 4 or 5 weeks, and
oh, and then there was one video specifically where the guy said, I know I haven't been very consistent with this, but I'm going to be consistent with this now. And then he stopped.
oh, right, after 3 weeks.
Yeah, but that's like goes into, you know, a much bigger, broader topic, not just real estate, but anything, like business. You know, pick something, be consistent with it, and I think most people give up just before they break through. Like, a good example is when we were sending marketing to our neighborhood for, remember that newsletter? We would create this nice newsletter, cost a lot of money, we send it out monthly.
Custom made. Not a company.
All the
that did it
content we
for us.
created every month. And we probably didn't see anything from it for a year and a half.
It's just like Gary Vee says.
Yeah.
Like, we're big advocates of Gary Vee, and you know, everybody's expecting results today from the work you're putting in today. Especially in the entrepreneurial world, you got to put the legwork in, right? You got to put the time, and
You do.
you got to be consistent. You got to be on the ball at all times, and not expect that the work that you're doing today is going to pay you today or tomorrow. It might be years down the road. Just like, you know, we're working with clients today that we may have met or started working with 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, in the quick tip videos, we never really saw direct results from it. Like, there weren't a ton of views on YouTube. Actually, I think they were quite low. And, you know,
There's a good way to promote KT
they,
Quick Tips.
hey, it's all about growing.
On another note, go to ktquicktips.ca for more of our low view videos.
They're great. But, and then one day you were out showing a house. Maybe you could tell a story. Remember you were showing a house during an open house? Somebody...
I don't know what story you're talking about because I show homes and do open houses on a pretty regular
All right,
basis.
you're killing me. So what happened? I remember this story. So you were out showing a house to a client, a bunch of houses, which happened to be during the same time as open houses. And you said you went into one of these houses, and there was a girl there that came up to you and said, "Hey, you're Ariel Kormendy. I watch your videos."
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, so the story is...
I just told it. You kind of ruined it. You can elaborate.
Yes. Did you not want me to repeat the story?
Go for it. You can tell better than I did.
Well, there was this one time I went into an open house with clients, and there just happened to be somebody else there, and she said, "Hey, I know you from your videos."
That was like mine, word for word.
Yes. No, I won't elaborate, but the
But
story
that goes
was...
to show that you never know who you're connecting with
Right.
or when you're going to have that.
I'm telling you, I go to Sobeys all the time, and people are like, "Hey, I watch your videos."
Yeah.
You know, so anyways, good on us for being 11 weeks into this podcast.
Yeah.
Cameron has ramped shit up for us pretty good here at the KT studio. We have 4 or 5 cameras rolling right now. We're going to have some people joining the podcast as guests in the not too distant future. I'm excited about that.
We should get Steve on here.
Steve will have to, you know what we'll do is, because he's going to Jamaica next week.
Yes.
And celebrating his 30th wedding anniversary.
First all-inclusive
First
vacation.
all-inclusive vacation he's ever been on. That's pretty amazing.
Very.
For somebody that's 140 years old. When they get back, we should have them on the podcast to tell us about the trip and their first experience of an all-inclusive. A lot of our clients love all-inclusive trips.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And they booked 3 excursions. He was telling me this morning they're doing a zip lining. They've never been. He's afraid of heights, so that'll be interesting. They're doing a horseback ride on the beach.
You're going to Bob Marley's house?
Nope, but they are going to Dunn's River Falls, which is
Nice.
a must-do when you're in Jamaica.
I never did that. I've been there twice. I didn't do it.
Yeah. Have you been to Bob Marley's house?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't.
I went
You
on,
went?
yeah, on not the last trip, but the trip before that. Man, we got really stoned at Bob Marley's house, let me tell you.
I guess that's the thing to do there.
Well, it's actually...
It's not legal.
It's illegal, right? But there are certain spots, of course, where, you know, it's just, you gotta do it. And Bob Marley's house, I would say,
Is
is gotta
one of
be
them.
one of them.
So for today's topic, and to kind of as a segue from what you were just saying about people recognizing you in videos, something that happens often with us, with me anyways, I can speak to, is people come into our open houses and they say, first thing they say, happened last weekend, "Oh, you're the guy from the video." So it's kind of neat that people recognize that. But today's topic is revolving around open houses.
Well, sort of. I wanted to actually get your opinion, so the reason this topic came up, and we haven't chatted about this yet, so let's go in fresh right now. So I did we've got a lot of properties on the go. I stuck to one this past weekend, and I like that. I like, not moving around, staying at one house for the weekend. I set my stuff up and know the house well. Anyways, it was a little bit slower than, because usually our open houses are very busy, but it was a little bit slow this past weekend because probably the weather, right?
Snowstorm didn't help.
A lot of snow, yeah, it's cold and whatnot, but anyways, there was a period of about 30 to 40 minutes where nobody was coming through the house, so I was sitting back doing some work on my laptop in the living room. Well, the living room in this particular home is kind of tucked to the back, and a couple walked in, and usually, as soon as somebody walks in, I'm right there to greet them and introduce them to the property, give them a brochure, get them to sign into the property and all that. But these folks were super quick. I mean, they took their shoes off like within seconds and were already right into the dining room before I was able to greet them. And they obviously stopped at Tim Hortons like right before the open house. One had a hot chocolate, the other had a coffee. And very politely, very calm and soft, I introduced myself and welcomed them to the open house and asked them if they'd be so kind to leave their beverages in the front foyer. And the front foyer in this particular home has a ledge where it's really simple to just leave your cups or belongings. So I asked them to leave it there, and they gave me this like a stink eye. They gave me the like, you're an asshole stink eye.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get your opinion on that because we never really talked about that. There is no team policy currently in place for our open houses. Do we or do we not allow guests to come in with beverages? And I'll even go a little further. What if there was food involved?
I'd have to put some thought into it. So my first thought is that it doesn't bother me, but at the same time, when I'm showing houses, if my clients have drinks, I ask them to leave their drinks in their car. So, but at the same time, it doesn't bother me to think if I was in an open house and guests were coming in and they had a beverage, I don't think it would even faze me that they had it. But now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I think it is probably a good idea not to carry it around with you.
So I can see both sides of the story, so,
But at the same time, we were serving wine and beer forever.
yeah. With the seller's permission.
Right. And that was us.
So do we now ask sellers, is it okay if people walk around with a coffee during the open house? You know, I don't know. How do most sellers feel? So everybody listening now, just chime in and let us know what you think. If you're selling your home, would you want guests walking around with beverages, coffee and hot chocolate in this case? Or would you prefer if they left it at the door? See, my concern is,
Well, on that, actually, I wouldn't mind knowing the actual answer to that. So, one thing we don't do is give people an easy way to message us. So, I'll ask them to text me. So, if people...
text our 1-800 number.
Yeah. Okay, so 1-800-617-0090. So, send a text message to that number letting us know, is it appropriate or not to walk through somebody else's house during an open house with a beverage? 1-800-617-0090.
Why don't we just post something live as well right now?
Yeah, you can get your phone now.
Okay. So, are you sure? Because then you're going to complain about me being on my phone too often
Oh, don't worry.
during the podcast.
We've got a good video coming for that.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
The story behind that is Ariel never listens when I talk. As soon as I start talking, he's on his computer.
So, okay, we're live here, Adrian. Podcast number 11. A heated question has just come up. We need you guys to chime in now.
What are you on Instagram?
Yep.
Is it front camera or back camera? Is it looking at me or you?
It's looking at you.
Oh, awesome. So the question was, we want to know, is it appropriate or not for people to walk through houses that are for sale, whether during an open house or with a realtor that's taking you through a private appointment? Is it appropriate to carry a beverage with you along the way? It's common people want to walk through with a coffee or tea or a hot chocolate, whatever. Some people make it a weekend ritual. That's what they do. They go out with hot chocolate and coffee on the weekend looking at houses. But is it appropriate to walk through other people's house with it? Yes or no? You can either chime in here or text message our 800 number.
So I'm just going to put the 1-800 number right in the comment section if anybody wants to text us while we're shooting this. Your brother Dan says yes.
He's always got a coffee in his hand.
That's true. Hey Dan, if you're walking around my cottage when you're going there with a coffee in your hand, I'm going to give you shit.
So one time there was, I was showing a house during an open house.
I'm just joking. I don't mind.
So I was at a house, not one of our listings, with my clients during an open house, and there was a family there with a kid walking around with food, and this kid was making...
Did you almost call him a fucking kid?
I did.
Fucking kid!
I refrained. But this kid was making a mess. Like, I don't know what they were eating, but it was like crummy, and they were dropping crumbs everywhere, and the parents couldn't care less. Like, they weren't even paying attention. So I had to tell them that their kid was making a mess in the house. Like, literally crumbs everywhere as they walked through the entire house on carpet. So I think if kids have things, I don't think they should have anything.
So for those of you just chiming in on Instagram here or joining us, the question during our podcast number 11 right now, live, is it appropriate for you to walk around in somebody else's house during an open house with a coffee or a beverage in hand? Leave a comment right now. Okay, so we have beer and wine served at some of our open houses. I think that's okay. It's controlled. The seller has accepted the fact that we're going to do that, and it's likely that it's controlled in the kitchen as well. What about food now? So let's say these folks at my open house on the weekend came in with a coffee and hot chocolate, but also a cookie, or a croissant, or a Timbit.
We don't even need to talk about it. I think we both agree now that new rule. Steve, you need to listen to this. New rule for all our open houses. People are not allowed to bring in their own beverage or food.
Well, Steve, why don't you come in here for a second? Come and take my seat, and Adrian's going to...
He's gonna get so nervous.
I know.
Take your seat. Where should I take your
We
seat?
need you to chime in. Can you just...
Well, just sit here. We'll hear you. We'll hear you. You can hear from there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Steve is joining us on our podcast right now. So the question out there to everybody is, if you're holding an open house, is it acceptable? Should it be acceptable? Or what should the team policy be? Is it acceptable for somebody that's just visiting the open house to come in with a beverage and walk around the home? So if it's a coffee or a hot chocolate, a tea, whatever. Do you allow it? Should we accept it?
I don't think we should accept it. I think we should ask them kindly to leave it at the door. Unless they're bringing me one, of course. No, I'm just kidding.
Have you
No.
ever had that happen where you're taking clients out to see houses and they have a drink?
Yeah, I asked them to leave it in the car or we leave it in the entrance.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I don't want to be responsible for spilling something on somebody's nice carpet or
That's right.
it's awkward, right?
Yeah. So we still want
Absolutely.
everyone else's opinion, but I think we all agree that there's a new company policy.
Absolutely.
Leave your beverages and food
Yeah.
at the door.
Well, and it's different if we're hosting something and we're responsible. That's
Right.
different.
It's no different than walking in with your shoes, right? You take your shoes off when you go to somebody's house.
Right.
So why shouldn't you leave your drink, right? Because especially this time of the year, you got slush on your boots.
Yep.
You don't want to trudge slush through the house.
Well, that's it.
Right.
So leave your shoes and beverages at the door. Does everybody agree? Chime in now on Instagram. Thanks for tuning into our live,
Or Facebook.
or Facebook. We're on Facebook as well right now.
Excellent. Or wherever you follow us.
There you go. Thanks for chiming in there, Steve. We were talking about your trip. So
Oh,
next,
my upcoming trip.
Yeah.
Nice.
so when you're back from your trip to Jamaica, we are actually going to ask you to join in the podcast and tell us a little bit about your trip.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I may be talking a little funny, but that'd be cool, man.
Well, please don't talk in Jamaica with that accent.
That's my Jewish Jamaican accent.
You might not- you might not come back.
Beat up or killed, yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome, guys.
So, all right. So, new team policy, I guess.
There you go. Well, so that was easy to get a solution, but I'm still interested to hear what other people have to say about it.
I am too, because that is the gray area, right? Like some.
By the way, before you go on, Steve, I thought he would be nervous, but I think he's a natural.
Oh, I think he's actually a lot. I've told him this. He's a lot better on camera, and you see his bloopers.
I know,
His
yeah.
blooper reel? That was fucking hilarious. If you haven't seen Steve's bloopers on our Instagram page, you gotta check it out.
Yeah.
Cameron did a nice job of putting that together
He
for
did,
sure.
yeah.
But he is a little bit of a natural. You just gotta throw him in there, right? Like
Yeah.
just throw him to the
No,
max.
he seemed very comfortable.
Yeah, sort of. You seem to be on your phone.
Well, I'm just finishing that live post. So, anyways, that answers the question. But on another note on open houses, I know you weren't really keen on the topic, but one of our listings, active listings, the owner keeps asking me if open houses are necessary. And the reason that they are asking me is because their friends are telling them that they are not necessary and that the buyer will come through a private showing with their realtor. And the general consensus that they have found is that real open houses are for the sole purpose of promoting the real estate agent so that they can get leads. And first of all, people need to stop listening to their friends. Second of all, obviously real estate agents are hoping to get leads from open houses. It's how they make a living. But that's not the reason they hold them. In fact, last weekend, we had somebody that isn't even on our team host one because we had too many, had all of our agents out, and the homeowner wasn't even 100% sure they wanted it because their friends were saying they're not necessary, but I insisted. So that just goes to show we get nothing from that. No leads for us. It's just somebody hosting an open house, trying to get exposure for the home. And she had somebody from the open house, that agent, call her the next day and say that they're interested and they wanted more information about it.
I'll give you my opinion right now. So, do open houses generate leads for the realtors and give them exposure? Yes, absolutely, 100%. That is how realtors can generate additional leads, right? I mean, a realtor's life is about generating leads, whether it's attending events, going door knocking and inviting people to an open house, doing an open house, meeting people. That's what we do on a day-to-day basis. We are trying to connect with people that are interested or know somebody that is interested in buying or selling real estate. That's what we do. So an open house is a great avenue for that. Especially realtors that are newer in the business, because they don't have, like you and I, really don't have to do any open houses to generate our income, generate our transactions. But we have a pretty big following and database of people that want to do business with us already. So that's the one side of it. What a lot of people don't recognize now is that approximately 50% of our open house attendees come through social media. They have seen the home advertised on social media and they just want to see the property. So we've done a good job of marketing it online, and they may or may not have a realtor, but they want to see the home at their own convenience, in their own leisure, get a coffee and go to that open house.
Well, and how many times have you had, because it's happened to me, how many times can you think of, if at all, where a past client of yours called you up, you had no idea they were even entertaining the idea of moving, and they said, hey, I saw this house, can you help me get some more information about it? And they saw it because they went to an open house. Happens all the time.
And it happens to us on the opposite side, where we host an open house and other realtors' clients come through the open house because their realtor might be at an open house themselves, or they just don't want to inconvenience that person because the house might not be a fit. But let's go and see it anyway. People love going to open houses. People love checking other people's shit out, right? Like, let's see how it's decorated. Let's see, what the floor plan looks like. Whatever. That's why they're open. Come and check out the house. The more traffic to your home, the more people that walk through the doors, the more likely you are to sell it, the more likely it is to sell quicker, for more money, etc. Open houses, if done properly and hosted properly, are an absolute must. Realtors that sit on their ass. Here's something funny I didn't even tell you. Last Friday at our neighborhood open house for one of our listings, I was pretty busy. It was actually relatively consistent traffic coming through during that snowstorm as well. And a nice couple came through, first time home buyers. They were with their young boy, and I could tell they were a little bit new to the shopping for a home scene, if you will. So I took them on a tour of the property. I told them a little bit about the Energy Star features that this particular home had, and I really wanted them to understand the utility savings, right? Because if you have the full Energy Star package in a newer home now, your insulation is better right down from the foundation all the way up into the attic. This particular home has a heat recovery ventilation system, which a lot of people don't know what it is or how it operates. And it also has a hot water recovery system, which, nobody really understands what they do. So I took the time to explain it to them. And realistically, having this Energy Star system saves 20 to 30% on your utility bills every month. So is it important for a first-time home buyer to know this? Absolutely. So I took the time and explained it to them and walked them through. And they said, you know what, we've been through a few open houses in the last week or two, and nobody has taken the time to explain anything to us or point out features like that. We really appreciate that. Most realtors we came across were just sitting on the couch, or were playing on their phone.
Yeah.
So if the open house is run by a true professional that is representing the sellers in the best capability, it definitely has value, and people love it.
I agree. Well, on last weekend, somebody came through on Saturday on their own, and then their realtor called me that night and said, hey, my clients saw your house today. I'm going to book an appointment to see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
He didn't even know they were there.
Little stat I'll tell you that I don't even think I've ever shared, because you know me, I'm a numbers guy and I do kind of corny things with the numbers and how I analyze it. But almost 15% of our listings sold either directly or indirectly because of an open house. And when I say indirectly, in an instance like that where somebody would come to the open house and then go back later, either with their realtor or send their realtor later. So in some way, shape, or form, about 15% of our listings are selling due to an open house.
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, one of the goals is to get it in front of as many people as you possibly can. So if that means doing open houses, do open houses. If that means doing online marketing, do online marketing. Like, why limit yourself? It's obviously not convenient for everybody because the homeowner can't be in the house, but it only takes one person, and you never know how or when you'll connect with them.
You know, when you're selling your house, you really have to commit to just getting the hell out of the house. Like, I've said this to a number of our sellers, and some of them have taken us up on it, that, you know, we don't need the seller here. Go on a vacation. Join Steve in Jamaica. Like, just go away. Everything's electronic now. Give us free reins to the house.
Yeah.
It'll be way more efficient, less cumbersome.
Well, there was one listing not too long ago where every single appointment that booked was an inconvenience to the homeowner. And they complained and said, oh, it's, not, we've got a house full of 2 teenage boys and a little dog. It just blew me away. Like, get the fucking teenage boys out of the house and take the dog for a walk and let these people through your house.
Yeah.
And one of them...
Do you want to sell the house or not?
One of the appointments was on short notice, so obviously it wasn't convenient. But it was a second visit by the same realtor with the same buyer. And they put up such a stink. So, like, just make it happen.
You know, how many times we've seen a listing where it'll say showings Monday to Friday, 8 to 4 only.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's restrictions.
I remember one that had
have open houses and don't have any restrictions.
One house I saw had a 2-hour window where they permitted showings.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Well, Steve was trying to do a deal in Guelph the other week, and the listing said easy to show. In the brokerage remarks, easy to show. So he called and he scheduled a showing. It was declined. He called again with a new time and date. It was declined. Finally, he called the realtor and said, hey, it says easy to show. My last 2 requests were declined. When can I show it? Oh, Saturday from 10:30 to 11:30 only. Right? Like, are you fucking serious? Like,
that's crazy.
Anyways, was there anything else you wanted to talk about in regards to open houses? Do you find that the open house, like, there's a lot of attendees now, that they're busy?
I've found, as of our listing on Lederman, so that was a few weeks ago, that was the first open house that I've seen, like, a huge surge in attendance. It was really busy.
The spring market's really starting to pick up.
Well, it's winter. But I get what you're saying.
But to my comment in the last podcast, I believe the spring, if you're watching these podcasts and
Seasons-
listening, you'll know that I said the spring market is here.
Spring's, it doesn't start until March or April.
Says who?
So what you mean is,
I said the spring market started.
so what you really mean is the winter market is hot.
Fine. Thanks for listening. That was episode 11.